Imagine you're walking home after a long day. You helped a friend. You smiled at a stranger. You were kind to everyone. But suddenly, something terrible happens. A betrayal. An accident. A loss. And you ask yourself, why me? Why do bad things happen to people who try to do everything right? Imagine a little child, gentle, pure, with no harm in their heart, falling sick without reason. A person who feeds the poor, struggling to feed themselves. A woman who loves deeply, abandoned without warning. Why does life seem so unfair, especially to the ones who deserve the best? Is goodness not enough to protect us? Does the universe not see our quiet kindness? Why does it feel like the cruel get richer and the kind get crushed? Have you ever sat alone and asked, what did I do to deserve this? You think of your past, your choices, your little acts of kindness, and still, you find no answer, no warning, no justice, just pain. Now, think of this. Have you ever met someone who's been through so much, yet carries a calm smile? They're not broken, they're not angry, but something in their eyes tells a story. They've seen suffering, but they've also seen something more. This is where Buddhism begins to speak, not with easy answers, but with deep, healing truths. Welcome to Wisdom Writings. Here, we look beyond the surface, into the real questions that trouble our hearts. If you've ever wondered why life is unfair, this video might bring you the perspective you didn't know you needed. There's so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% subscribe. So please, like this video, comment your thoughts, share with someone who needs it, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel. Every click helps us bring wisdom to those who are quietly struggling. In Buddhism, pain is not punishment, and pleasure is not reward. Life is not a straight line between cause and effect that we always understand. The Buddha taught that life is suffering, but not in a hopeless way. He meant that suffering is a part of being human, but it can be understood, and through that understanding, it can be transformed. Bad things don't always come because of bad actions in this life. Sometimes they are the result of old karma, actions planted long ago, even before we were born. And sometimes they are part of a deeper lesson we're meant to live through, to grow through. The path of the good person is often not easy, not because they are being punished, but because their soul is being shaped, like a sword in fire, like a seed under pressure. Buddhism doesn't promise protection from pain, but it offers a way to see it differently, to stop asking, why me, and start asking, what now? This is just the beginning. Stay with us as we explore the invisible reasons behind visible pain, and how your suffering may be a step towards something greater than you can see right now. The law beyond fairness, karma misunderstood. In the beginning, there was nothing but the mind, the first spark of awareness. And from that spark, the world was born. But not in the way we imagine. Not in a world of fairness, where good things happen to good people and bad things to bad people. That is the dream we live in, a dream we have woven from the threads of our desires. But the truth is deeper and more complex. The truth is that life is not a simple transaction of deeds and rewards. It is not that good people should always be protected from suffering, or that bad people should always face punishment. The world does not owe us anything, least of all fairness. We often hear people say, karma will get them, when someone does something wrong. Or I must have done something bad to deserve this, when bad things happen to us. But this is where we misunderstand the very essence of karma. Karma is not a simple cause and effect. It is not a cosmic bookkeeping system where good deeds are rewarded and bad deeds are punished. It's more like a vast river that flows through time, carrying the consequences of actions in ways we cannot always understand. Karma, in its true form, is not about retribution. It is about the seeds we plant and the conditions we create for ourselves and others. In the Buddhist teachings, karma is not an act of cosmic fairness. It is a law of cause and effect, but not the way we think. It is not always about what happens to us in this moment, but what has been happening, what we have been doing, and what is coming towards us whether we know it or not. It is deeper than the surface level of good and bad. Imagine, for a moment, that you are planting a tree. You may plant a small seed, water it, nurture it, but you cannot control exactly when the tree will grow. Sometimes the soil is rich and the tree grows quickly. Sometimes the soil is dry and the tree struggles. Sometimes the tree faces storms or pests and it grows crooked or weak. The same is true for our actions. We plant the seeds with every thought, every word, every deed, and sometimes we forget that the fruit of these seeds may take time to show up. We often confuse this with punishment. If something bad happens to us, we feel like we must have done something terrible in the past. But that's not how karma works. It's not about waiting for punishment. It's about understanding that the conditions we create today, the actions we take, the way we think, will affect the world tomorrow. They shape our future, even if we can't see it now. Sometimes, the fruit of the seeds we planted long ago shows up unexpectedly, and it's not something we can change. It's like the tree that we've nurtured, but suddenly a strong wind knocks it over. But even in that, there is a lesson to be learned. So, what does it mean when we face suffering, even though we've tried to live a good life? It means that life is not about avoiding suffering, but about understanding it. It means that the path of the good person is not about being free from pain, but about learning to navigate through it with wisdom, with compassion, and with courage. It means that life is not a simple ledger of good and bad deeds. It is a living, breathing, evolving process of cause and effect, of creation and destruction, of birth and death. But here's the thing about karma. It's not just about the past. It's also about the present. It's about what we choose to do now, in this moment. Even if we have faced suffering in the past, we still have the power to plant new seeds today. We may not be able to change the past, but we can always change how we respond to the present. This is the true power of karma, not in waiting for the world to give us what we deserve, but in recognizing that we are the creators of our own future. Sometimes, we wonder why bad things happen to good people. We look at someone who seems to have done everything right, and yet they suffer. And we think, why them? Why not the person who deserves it? But karma is not a system of fairness as we understand it. It is not about what we deserve. It is about what we create, what we choose, how we respond. Suffering does not always come because we have done something wrong. Sometimes, suffering is the result of the conditions of the world, conditions that are far beyond our control. Sometimes, it's just the way the river flows. But that doesn't mean we are helpless. Far from it. In Buddhism, we are taught that suffering is a part of life, but it is not something to be feared or avoided. It is something to be understood. When we see suffering, we are given an opportunity to look deeper. We are given an opportunity to reflect on the true nature of things, not just our own actions, but the nature of the world itself. Life is not just about what happens to us. It is about how we respond to what happens, how we choose to understand it, how we learn and grow through it. The key is not to ask why we suffer, but to ask how we can learn from it. To ask how we can use our suffering to grow, to deepen our wisdom, to become more compassionate, and to free ourselves from the cycle of craving and aversion. This is the true nature of karma, not a system of rewards and punishments, but a law of creation. We create our lives through our actions, our thoughts, our words. And every moment is an opportunity to create something new. So, when you ask yourself why bad things happen to good people, remember that the answer is not found in the question itself. The answer is found in how we respond to the bad things. Do we choose to react with anger, with despair, with bitterness? Or do we choose to respond with wisdom, with understanding, with compassion? This is the power of karma. Not in waiting for the world to make things right, but in choosing to make things right ourselves. In choosing to plant new seeds, in choosing to create new conditions for ourselves and for the world. Karma is not about getting what we deserve. It is about understanding that we are always creating, always shaping, always evolving. And when we understand this, we begin to see the world differently. We begin to see that suffering is not a punishment, but a teacher. We begin to see that we are not at the mercy of fate, but the creators of our own destiny. And with that understanding, we can find peace, even in the most difficult moments, because we know that every moment is an opportunity to change, to grow, to transform. So, the next time you face suffering, remember that it is not a punishment. It is not an answer to the question, why me? It is simply a part of the journey. And how you respond to it is the most important thing. The seeds you plant today will shape the world tomorrow. And in that, you have the power to change everything. The illusion of control, when goodness isn't a shield. Have you ever tried to control the world around you? To shape everything according to your desires, your values, and your good intentions? Most of us do. We build plans, we set goals, we take care of our health, and we try to surround ourselves with good people. We believe that if we're good enough, if we follow the right path, if we work hard enough, then life should reward us with peace, happiness, and success. But then, the unexpected happens. A sudden illness strikes. A loved one betrays your trust. An accident changes everything in an instant. And suddenly, the illusion of control shatters. No matter how hard you try to hold on, life slips through your fingers like water. And you're left wondering, why did this happen? What did I do wrong? It's as though your goodness, your efforts, your intentions are worthless in the face of such chaos. This is the heart of suffering for many. The belief that if we are good, if we follow the rules, life should work in our favor. And when it doesn't, we feel betrayed. We feel like the universe owes us. We start searching for answers, but all we find is more confusion. Why does bad stuff happen to good people? Buddhism teaches us that the world is governed by far more than just our actions. It's not just about being a good person or following a set of rules. Life is not a simple equation where good behavior equals good outcomes. The world is vast, complex, and influenced by countless forces we cannot see or control. The forces of nature, the karmic winds of the past, and even the actions of others. These things shape the world in ways that we don't always understand. We have no control over much of what happens to us, no matter how much we want to. There's a great deal of randomness and unpredictability in life. You could take care of yourself, do everything right, and still, something happens that you didn't see coming. This can be a hard pill to swallow, especially for those who've worked so hard to create stability in their lives. But the truth is, the desire for control can be one of the biggest sources of our suffering. Think about it for a moment. Have you ever found yourself desperately trying to change something beyond your control? Maybe you tried to fix a relationship that was falling apart, where you worked endlessly to avoid an inevitable challenge. You felt the tight grip of wanting to control everything around you. But in the end, the harder you fought, the more frustrated and exhausted you became. The more you tried to hold on, the more things slipped away. This struggle is natural. It's part of being human. We all want control because we think it will protect us from pain. We want to feel safe, secure, and in charge of our destiny. But the more we fight to control, the more we suffer when things inevitably slip from our grasp. Buddhism invites us to let go of this illusion of control. It doesn't mean we stop trying or stop caring about the outcomes of our actions. Rather, it means we accept the reality that there are things in this world that we simply cannot control. The Buddha spoke of the nature of attachment, of how we cling to things, people, and outcomes. This attachment, this desire to control, creates suffering. The more we try to hold on, the more we are bound to experience pain when things change, as they inevitably do. If we can let go of the need to control everything, we free ourselves from the constant anxiety of trying to make life fit into our plans. Life becomes less about fighting and more about flowing. It's about accepting that we don't have control over everything, but we do have control over how we respond. But how do we respond when life throws us curveballs? How do we move forward when a world seems unfair? This is where the true strength of a Stoic or a Buddhist lies, not in avoiding pain, but in how we carry ourselves through it. In Buddhism, the focus is on cultivating inner peace and wisdom. Instead of striving to control the outer world, we turn inward, seeking calm amidst the chaos. We develop equanimity, the ability to remain balanced, no matter what life brings. Imagine if you could stop fighting against the flow of life. Imagine accepting the ups and downs, the wins and losses, as part of a much bigger picture. This doesn't mean that you stop caring or that you become passive. It means that you understand that you cannot control everything, and you embrace the uncertainty and change that come with being human. Let's take a moment to reflect on the Buddhist teachings about the impermanence of life. Nothing stays the same. Everything changes: our relationships, our health, our circumstances. Life moves forward, and sometimes it moves in ways that we don't expect. But the beauty of this impermanence is that it also brings the opportunity for growth, for change, and for new beginnings. When we stop trying to control everything, we stop resisting life. Instead of fighting against the flow, we learn to move with it. This doesn't mean we abandon our goals or our desires. It simply means that we no longer allow our happiness to depend on things we can't control. Buddhism teaches that suffering arises from attachment to things, people, and outcomes. When we believe that we can control these things, we set ourselves up for disappointment. But when we let go of this attachment, we create space for true freedom. We stop being enslaved by our desires and start living in harmony with the world around us. There's peace in accepting what comes. This doesn't mean we don't feel pain or sorrow. Of course we do, but it means that we stop allowing these emotions to control us. We stop identifying with them as though they define who we are. We are not our pain. We are not our failures. We are not the bad things that happen to us. We are the way we respond to them. This is where true freedom lies, not in controlling the world around us, but in controlling how we react to it. In understanding that life is full of unpredictability, and that the only thing we can truly control is ourselves, our thoughts, our responses, our actions. So, when life doesn't go as planned, when bad things happen despite your goodness, remember that this is not a failure. It's an opportunity to practice acceptance, an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to become stronger. When you let go of the need to control everything, you start to experience life with a sense of peace. You begin to understand that life is not about avoiding suffering, but about how you respond to it. You don't have to fight every battle. You don't have to win every war. You just have to find peace in the storm and know that no matter what happens, you will be okay. And that ultimately is the greatest form of control we can ever have. The noble truths. Understanding the root of pain. Imagine you are sitting under a tree, the leaves rustling gently above you. The sun is setting, casting a golden light across the land, but inside there's a storm. It's as if something is missing, something important that you can't name. In that moment, you ask yourself, why does life feel this way? Why does everything seem to slip through my fingers, no matter how hard I try? This is where the Buddha's teachings begin to touch us all. His path is not about avoiding the truth, but understanding it so deeply that we can transform it. It starts with acknowledging something many of us try to hide from: suffering. It's in the human experience, unavoidable and constant. We all face it in one form or another. Loss, pain, disappointment, fear, or the quiet ache of wanting something that seems out of reach. But here's the powerful truth that Buddhism offers. Suffering is not a punishment, and it is not random. It's a part of life that we must learn to understand, not fear. The Buddha called it dukkha. It's often translated as suffering, but it can also mean dissatisfaction, unease, or the subtle sense that something is off in our lives. You don't need to search far to feel it. Whether it's a broken heart, unfulfilled dreams, or the stress of simply being alive in a world full of constant change. Dukkha is the universal experience that connects us all. But why must there be suffering? Why does it affect even the kindest of hearts? The Buddha teaches that suffering arises from desire, tanha, the craving for things to be different than they are. It's the deep yearning for permanence in a world that is in constant motion. We crave happiness, and when we have it, we cling to it, afraid it will slip away. We want to avoid pain, yet it often finds its way back to us, no matter how much we try to control or escape it. Think about the things you've wanted most in your life, the things you thought would bring you lasting happiness. Maybe it's wealth, love, fame, or success. In the moment of getting them, there is joy. But over time, that joy fades, and you find yourself craving something else. The cycle repeats. No matter how many desires you fulfill, the underlying feeling of dukkha doesn't disappear. It evolves, shifting into new forms, but it remains. The Buddha's first noble truth is the recognition that suffering is part of life, and we must not ignore it or pretend it doesn't exist. Only by acknowledging it can we begin the journey of understanding and eventually freeing ourselves from it. But the Buddha didn't just stop there, leaving us with a grim picture of reality. He offered a way out, a path that leads not only to peace, but to a deeper freedom than we ever imagined. The second noble truth brings us closer to the heart of the matter. Suffering arises from desire. We are attached to things, to people, to ideas, to experiences. And these attachments are what bind us to the cycle of dukkha. We want things to stay the same, to be in our control, but the truth is, nothing lasts. Everything is impermanent. Whether it's our relationships, our health, our success, or our happiness, change is inevitable. Think about the times you felt the deepest sorrow. It's often tied to a loss, something you didn't want to let go of. That person, that dream, that stage in life. It's not the loss itself that hurts most, but the attachment to how things should be. We mourn not just what was, but what we imagine would last forever. The Buddha teaches us to examine our attachments, to see how they create suffering. By doing so, we begin to free ourselves from their hold. But let's not mistake this for a call to give up on life or not care about anything. The Buddha's third noble truth is profound. There's an end to suffering. It's not a faraway, impossible goal. The end of suffering comes when we begin to change the way we relate to life. When we stop clinging to things that cannot stay, when we stop resisting the flow of impermanence, we find peace. The goal isn't to escape life, but to live it fully without being consumed by the constant desire for more or the fear of losing what we have. This doesn't mean that we stop loving, stop caring, or stop desiring. But it means we begin to love without attachment, to care without expectation, to desire without grasping. We can enjoy the beauty of sunset, knowing that it will fade, without feeling sorrow that it is gone. We can love someone deeply, without trying to possess them, knowing that love is not a thing to own, but a gift to share. This is the path to true freedom, the realization that we can experience all of life without being bound by it. Finally, the Buddha's fourth noble truth teaches us the way out, the Eightfold Path. It's not a single decision, but a way of living, a set of practices that lead to the cessation of suffering. It's about right understanding, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. These are the tools that help us walk away from the cycle of desire and suffering and step into a life of clarity, peace, and compassion. The Eightfold Path isn't a set of rules you follow out of obligation. It's a way of life that brings deep understanding and joy, the kind of joy that isn't dependent on what we have or don't have. It's the joy of being present in each moment, of letting go of the need for everything to be perfect, of trusting that life will unfold as it is meant to, with or without our control. When you understand these truths, you begin to see suffering in a new light. It's no longer something to fear or resent, but something to learn from. It's a teacher that shows us where we are attached, where we are clinging, and where we need to let go. As you walk this path, you may find that suffering doesn't disappear completely, but no longer has the power to control you. You can live with a sense of ease and acceptance, knowing that every moment, even the painful ones, has something to offer. This is the wisdom of the Buddha, the wisdom that has been passed down through the ages, not as a set of rigid rules, but as a guide to living with clarity and peace. As we walk through life's challenges, we can remember that suffering is not a punishment, but an opportunity for growth. It is not the end of the road, but a signal that there is something deeper to understand, something more beautiful to discover on the other side. So the next time you find yourself asking, "Why me?" or "Why does this happen to good people?" remember this: the suffering we face isn't random, nor is it a sign that we are being punished. It's part of the human experience. It's a challenge that can transform us if we let it. The path to peace begins not with avoiding suffering, but with understanding it. Samsara's grip, the cyclical nature of suffering. Samsara. It's a word you may have heard before, but what does it really mean? In simple terms, samsara refers to the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. It's the cycle of life that we all experience, where suffering seems to always find a way in, no matter how good or pure our intentions are. It feels like we keep getting caught in the same pattern over and over again, by trying to move forward, only to find ourselves stuck in a loop of repeating pain and confusion. You might wonder, why does this keep happening? You may have tried everything. Change your approach, learn new things, even heal from old wounds. But the cycle seems unbroken. You think you've made progress, and yet somehow another challenge appears. Another moment of suffering. Another heartbreak. Another loss. This cycle of samsara is not just about physical life or death. It's a deeper, more subtle pattern that affects our hearts and minds. It's the cycle of desires, attachments, and the fear of loss. We want things that make us feel secure, things that bring us comfort. But the more we hold on to them, the more we suffer when they're taken away. Samsara teaches us that nothing in this world is permanent. Not happiness, not wealth, not even the people we love. Everything is in constant flux. It's like chasing shadows. You'll never catch them, no matter how fast you run. But don't despair. This isn't some cruel fate we're doomed to forever. The Buddha didn't talk about samsara just to make us feel powerless. No, he talked about it to show us the way out, to show us that suffering is not something to run from, but something to understand. Once we truly understand the nature of samsara, we start to see the possibility of liberation. The truth is, suffering is not random. It's not an accident. It is part of the fabric of our existence. It is a part of what makes us human. But it doesn't define us. The key is in how we respond to it. When we live with attachment, we are trapped in samsara. Our hearts get tangled in desires, and our minds get lost in the endless chase for things that will never truly satisfy us. The cycle repeats because we are always looking outside ourselves for peace. But peace is not outside. It is within us. Samsara keeps us trapped by making us believe that happiness depends on things we can touch, see, or control. If we just get the right job, the right partner, the right circumstances, then we'll finally be happy. But in reality, happiness is like a flame that is blown out by the wind, always slipping through our fingers. The more we chase it, the further it seems to run. But here's where Buddhism offers us a different perspective. Instead of fighting against the cycle, we learn to see it for what it truly is. Samsara is not our enemy. It's our teacher. It shows us where we are attached, where we are stuck. It shows us the things we hold on to that are actually causing our pain. And most importantly, it shows us that we have the power to step out of it. We don't need to wait for the cycle to stop on its own. We can end it ourselves. The key to ending samsara, to breaking free from this cycle of suffering, is the practice of mindfulness and detachment. Mindfulness is the ability to see things as they truly are, without the distortion of our desires or fears. It's the awareness of the present moment, without clinging to the past or worrying about the future. When we are mindful, we start to see how we create our own suffering. We start to understand that our attachment to things, people, and outcomes is the very thing that keeps us trapped in the cycle. Detachment doesn't mean we stop caring or stop loving. It doesn't mean we become cold or indifferent. It means we learn to let go of our need to control, our need to possess. We can love deeply, but we don't have to hold on to the people we love with such tightness that their absence would destroy us. We can pursue our dreams, but we don't need them to define our worth. We can experience joy and pleasure, but we don't need to cling to them for fear of losing them. Samsara is not something that happens to us. It's something we create. We create it with our desires, our fears, and our attachments. When we let go of these, we stop feeding the cycle. And when we stop feeding it, we begin to experience a different kind of freedom. You may ask, how we stop feeding the cycle? The answer lies in our awareness. The more aware we become of our attachments, the more we begin to see how we are holding on to things that only bring us pain. And as we become more aware, we start to make choices that lead us out of samsara. We stop chasing what doesn't bring us peace, and instead, we start to cultivate inner peace. This is where the practice of meditation comes in. Meditation helps us connect with the stillness within. It teaches us to observe our thoughts, to see the impermanence of our emotions, and to let go of the things that bind us. Through meditation, we begin to understand that we are not our thoughts, our feelings, or our desires. We're the observer of all these things. And when we step back and observe, we see that they're just passing clouds in the sky. They come and go, but we remain unchanged. The cycle of samsara is not something that can be ended overnight. It's a gradual process of awakening, of becoming more and more aware of our attachments and the patterns of our mind. But with every step we take, we move closer to liberation. Every time we let go of something that no longer serves us, we free ourselves from the cycle. And with each step, we move closer to the peace and freedom that lies beyond the suffering. You see, samsara is not a punishment. It is a lesson. It is a mirror that reflects back to us the things we need to learn in order to grow. It shows us where we are still attached, where we are still stuck, and where we can let go. The more we let go, the less power samsara has over us, and the more peace we experience in our lives. This is the path of the Buddha, not to escape suffering, but to understand it, not to avoid pain, but to learn how to move through it with wisdom and compassion, to see the cyclical nature of life not as something to fear, but as something to embrace. For in embracing samsara, we find a way out. Seeds and fruits, the long game of past actions. When you look at your life, you see the results of choices, right? The good things that have happened, the people who have come into your life, the moments of joy. Those are like seeds you planted at some point. Some you planted knowingly, and others were planted by the things you didn't even think about, but they grew anyway. Now think of the hard times you've been through, the struggles, the setbacks, the pain. It feels so unfair, doesn't it? It feels as if life is picking on you, like you don't deserve this. But let's pause and really sit with this for a moment. What if those struggles are not random? What if they're like fruits from seeds that were planted long ago, perhaps even before you were born? In Buddhism, we talk about karma, the law of cause and effect. But karma is not just about what you've done in this life. It's much deeper, stretching across many lifetimes, beyond what we can comprehend in our human minds. Every action, every word, every thought plants a seed. Some of those seeds grow into sweet, beautiful fruits, and some grow into bitter, hard ones. Think about it. The actions you take today are not just shaping your tomorrow, but the tomorrows that you can't yet see. Every moment is a tiny piece of a larger picture. Just like the seed that will eventually become a tree, you don't see all the things that are happening beneath the surface. But they are happening. You're creating your future with every thought, every breath. Sometimes, the fruits that grow from our seeds aren't what we expect. You might plant a seed of kindness, only to have it grow into a moment of pain or betrayal. But here's where it gets interesting. In the Buddhist view, the fruit of that seed is not the end of the story. It's just part of a larger process. The pain you experience is not the universe punishing you, but the fruit of your past actions, sometimes even from past lifetimes. But don't despair, because here's the key. You can plant new seeds right now. Every moment you're alive is a chance to choose a new seed to change the course of your life. Yes, it's true that your past has created this moment, but your present is where you can change everything. Every kind word, every action of love, every moment of mindfulness is a new seed being planted. Imagine if you could see your life as a garden. Some parts are full of beautiful flowers, while others are tangled in weeds. But the garden is yours. You can't change the weeds you planted in the past, but you can pull them out and plant something new. Each seed you plant today will grow into the future you want to live in. This is the teaching of karma. Not that you're doomed by the past, but that you have the power to shape your future. The seeds you plant today will bear fruit tomorrow. What fruits do you want to see in your life? What seed will you plant? In Buddhism, there's a saying, "As you sow, so shall you reap." It's not a punishment, it's a law of nature. The world is not out to get you. It's simply responding to the seeds you've planted. And here's the beautiful part. Even if you've planted seeds of anger, resentment, or fear in the past, you can always plant new seeds of love, compassion, and understanding. The moment you decide to change, the garden begins to shift. This is the power of mindfulness, of being present with each thought, each action, each breath. When you are mindful, you're aware of the seeds you are planting. You are no longer living unconsciously, letting your life unfold without direction. You are the gardener of your own soul, and the choices you make today will shape your tomorrow. The Buddha taught that we are the creators of our own suffering and happiness. It is not external forces that control us, but the seeds we plant in our minds and hearts. You might not understand all the fruit that is growing right now in your life, but you can start planting seeds of peace, patience, and wisdom. And with time, you will begin to see the fruits of those seeds. It's easy to fall into the trap of blaming others or the world for your pain. But when you understand the law of karma, you begin to realize that everything is interconnected. You are not separate from the world around you. Your actions ripple out and touch everyone you meet. And just as your actions create your future, the actions of others create theirs. When you think about your life and the pain you've experienced, remember, it's not the end of the story. The pain you feel today is just one chapter. What matters is how you respond, how you choose to plant new seeds. The past is behind you. The future is uncertain, but this moment is yours to shape. So, ask yourself, what kind of seeds are you planting today? What kind of fruits do you want to grow in your life? Are you planting seeds of love or seeds of fear? Seeds of kindness or seeds of anger? You can't change the past, but you have the power to create the future. In the end, the beauty of karma is that it gives us the power to change, to grow, to transform. You are not stuck in a life of pain. You can always plant new seeds. You can always choose to start again. It doesn't matter where you've been or what you've done. What matters is where you go from here. Every day is a new opportunity to plant seeds that will grow into something beautiful, something meaningful. The garden of your life is waiting for you to tend it. So, what seed will you plant today? The Bodhisattva's burden, choosing pain for compassion. In the journey of life, there are moments that truly change us. Sometimes, the most profound transformations don't come from moments of peace or happiness, but from our deepest struggles. It's as if, in the pain, something inside us begins to wake up. The Buddha spoke of suffering, not to make us feel hopeless, but to help us understand its role in our growth. There's a path, a way through the darkness, and in Buddhism, it's called the Bodhisattva's path, a path of compassion, wisdom, and deep selflessness. The Bodhisattva is a being who has reached enlightenment, but instead of choosing to enter nirvana and leave suffering behind, they choose to stay. They choose to endure the pain of the world for one simple reason: to help others. They take on the suffering of others as their own, not out of obligation, but out of an overflowing heart that seeks to heal and uplift. When you first hear this, it may sound impossible. Why would anyone want to choose more suffering? Why would anyone decide to carry the pain of others when they themselves are struggling to carry their own? But this is the paradox of the Bodhisattva. It's not about choosing suffering for the sake of suffering. It's about choosing to use that suffering to awaken deeper compassion. Imagine a parent watching their child suffer. The parent would gladly trade places, would take the pain upon themselves, if it meant their child could be free from it. This is the essence of compassion, a willingness to feel the pain of others because, deep inside, you know that shared suffering can lead to shared healing. And so, the Bodhisattva lives with the weight of the world on their shoulders, but with a heart that is lighter than anyone else's. Their pain is not a burden, but a tool to connect with others, to help them see that they are not alone. When on the Bodhisattva's path, you stop asking the question, why me? You begin to understand that the pain you carry is not meaningless. It's not random. It has a purpose that is greater than you can comprehend. Your suffering becomes a means by which you learn to empathize with others, to understand their pain, and ultimately, to offer them compassion. You begin to see the world not as a place where bad things happen to good people, but as a place where we can all grow together through our shared experiences. The Bodhisattva is not someone who walks around without pain, without hardship. In fact, they may experience suffering more deeply than most, but it's how they handle that suffering that is different. They don't run from it. They don't try to numb it. Instead, they sit with it, learn from it, and then they use it to help others. They transform their own pain into wisdom and compassion. And through this process, they help others transform as well. When we talk about compassion, it's important to understand that it doesn't mean fixing others or taking away their pain. Compassion means being present with someone in their pain, acknowledging it, and offering them love without judgment. It's not about solving problems, but about sharing the burden. It's about offering a hand, a listening ear, or even just a smile that says, I see you, I understand you, I'm here with you. And as the Bodhisattva walks this path, they come to realize something very powerful. Their own suffering is not separate from the suffering of others. In fact, it's the same. The pain that you feel in your heart, the grief, the frustration, the confusion, is the same pain that others feel. The same longing for peace, the same desire for happiness, the same search for meaning. When you begin to truly understand this, something incredible happens. You stop feeling alone in your suffering. You begin to see that your pain is a bridge, not a wall. It connects you to others, and through that connection, you find healing. This is where the Bodhisattva's wisdom lies. They don't escape suffering. They don't avoid it. Instead, they embrace it and allow it to deepen their understanding of the world and of themselves. Through that understanding, they discover the immense power of compassion. And with that compassion, they help others see that they, too, can transform their pain into something beautiful, something meaningful. The path of the Bodhisattva is not for the faint of heart. It's a path that asks you to give up the idea of a life without suffering and instead to embrace the idea that suffering can be a teacher. It's a path that asks you to see the pain in others as your own, to understand that no one is truly alone in their suffering. It's a path that asks you to let go of your need to control the world and instead trust that by showing up with love and compassion, you can make a difference. It's a path that asks you to look at the world's pain, not as a burden to avoid, but as an opportunity to awaken and help others awaken too. Through this path, the Bodhisattva becomes a living embodiment of the Buddhist teachings. They live in the world, but they're not bound by it. They experience pain, but they're not consumed by it. They face suffering, but they're not defeated by it. And in doing so, they show us that there's another way to live. One that doesn't run from pain, but embraces it with a heart full of compassion. And in this journey, the Bodhisattva learns that the greatest gift they can give is not to fix others, but to walk beside them in their suffering, offering them understanding, love, and presence. Through this, the Bodhisattva finds peace, not in the absence of pain, but in the acceptance of it, in the transformative power of compassion. So, when you find yourself asking, why me? Why this pain? Why does suffering have to exist? Remember that you're not alone in that question. We all face it in different ways at different times. And just like the Bodhisattva, you have the power to turn that pain into something meaningful. Not by escaping it, but by embracing it, learning from it, and using it to help others. Through this process, your suffering becomes not just yours, but a shared experience, a way to connect with others, to heal, and to find peace together. In the end, the Bodhisattva doesn't seek to escape the world's pain. They seek to transform it, to transcend it, and to help others do the same. It's a path of love, of understanding, and of deep, transformative compassion. And it's a path that, in the end, leads to the greatest peace of all, the peace of knowing that, even in suffering, there is meaning, there is purpose, and there's always the opportunity to help someone else find their way. Inner revolution, transforming pain into wisdom. Pain is a strange companion. It sneaks into our lives without warning, leaving us breathless, broken, and confused. We often think of pain as something to avoid, something we shouldn't have to face. But what if pain isn't something we need to fear? What if instead of running from it, we could allow it to shape us into something stronger? When we experience pain, our first instinct is often to ask, why me? We wonder what we did to deserve it, or how we can escape it. But if we take a moment to pause, if we take a breath and listen, we begin to hear something else, something deeper, something wiser. The truth is, pain isn't always an enemy. Sometimes, it's the teacher we never wanted but desperately need. It reveals what's hidden beneath the surface of our lives, showing us our weaknesses, our fears, and our attachments. It exposes the things we cling to, the illusions we hold on to that prevent us from growing. And when we see these truths clearly, we have a choice. We can either let the pain defeat us or allow it to transform us. Buddhism teaches us that pain is a natural part of existence. It's not something to be avoided, but something to be understood. The Buddha himself faced immense suffering in his own life, and it was through this suffering that he discovered the path to enlightenment. His teachings didn't promise a life free from pain, but a life where pain could be understood, accepted, and even transcended. In the face of pain, the Buddha asked us to look within. Instead of blaming the world or others, we are called to examine our own hearts, to see where our attachments and desires lie. For it is our attachments that cause us to suffer the most. We attach ourselves to people, things, and ideas, believing that they will bring us lasting happiness. But when these things change or disappear, we are left in despair. The Buddha's path teaches us to let go of these attachments, not in a cold or detached way, but in a way that frees us from the suffering they cause. When we let go, we create space for something new to enter our lives: peace, wisdom, and a deep understanding of our true nature. It's not an easy path. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean resigning ourselves to a life of indifference or passivity. Letting go means releasing the grip we have on things that are fleeting and uncertain. It means accepting that change, is the only constant in life. And when we accept this truth, we can begin to move through life with a sense of freedom, knowing that we don't have to hold on to anything to find peace. But how do we begin this process? How do we transform pain into wisdom? It starts with awareness. When we experience pain, we often try to push it away, numb it, or distract ourselves from it. We turn to things like alcohol, food, or even busyness to avoid facing the pain directly. But true healing can only come when we are willing to sit with our pain, to feel it fully without judgment or resistance. This is where meditation comes in. Meditation is a powerful tool for transforming pain into wisdom. It teaches us to sit with our thoughts and emotions, to observe them without becoming overwhelmed by them. In the stillness of meditation, we can see our pain for what it truly is, not a punishment, not an enemy, but a teacher. And once we begin to see pain as a teacher, we can start to learn from it. Through meditation, we learn to cultivate compassion, not just for others, but for ourselves. We begin to understand that we are not defined by our pain. We are not weak because we feel hurt. We are simply human. And in our humanity, we have the capacity to grow, to heal, and to become wiser. It's important to remember that transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process, a journey that requires patience and persistence. There will be moments when we feel overwhelmed, moments when we want to give up. But these are the moments when we need to keep going, when we need to trust the process and believe that something greater is unfolding. One of the most powerful teachings of Buddhism is the idea of impermanence. Everything, no matter how painful or joyful, is temporary. Our pain, our struggles, and even our joys will eventually fade. This doesn't mean that life is meaningless or that we shouldn't care. It means that we are not bound by our circumstances. We have the power to rise above them, to transform them, and to find peace within them. When we embrace impermanence, we begin to see that pain is not permanent either. It may feel like it will last forever, but it won't. Just as the sun sets and rises again, our pain will eventually pass. And in its place, we will find new wisdom, new strength, and new clarity. Another key teaching of Buddhism is the concept of mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in each moment, without judgment or attachment. It's about noticing the thoughts, feelings, and sensations that arise in our minds and bodies, without getting caught up in them. When we practice mindfulness, we learn to observe our pain without becoming consumed by it. We learn to see it as just another part of our experience, not something that defines us. Mindfulness also helps us develop gratitude. Even in the midst of pain, we can find moments of beauty, moments of peace, and moments of love. By focusing on these moments, we begin to shift our perspective, realizing that life is not just about what we lose, but also about what we gain. This doesn't mean we should deny our pain or pretend it doesn't exist. It means we learn to accept it without resistance, to see it as part of the ebb and flow of life. And when we accept our pain, we create space for healing, for growth, and for transformation. The more we practice mindfulness and meditation, the more we begin to see that we are not our pain. We are not our thoughts, our emotions, or our circumstances. We are the awareness behind them, the observer of all things. And when we recognize this truth, we become free. Free from a need to control everything. Free from the fear of loss. Free from the belief that pain is something to be avoided. We become free to live fully, to love deeply, and to embrace life as it is, with all its joys and sorrows. Ultimately, the path of transformation is the path of acceptance. When we accept pain as part of life, when we accept that it has something to teach us, we begin to see the world with new eyes. We begin to see that every experience, every challenge, and every struggle is an opportunity for growth. And as we continue on this path, we come to understand a deeper truth. The truth that the only way to truly transform our pain is to transform ourselves. By changing our relationship with pain, we change our relationship with life. We become wiser, more compassionate, and more at peace. This is the revolution that pain brings. Not a revolution of resistance or rebellion, but a revolution of the heart. A revolution of understanding, acceptance, and love. So, the next time you face pain, don't ask, why me? Instead, ask, what can I learn from this? Because in every moment of suffering, there's an opportunity to awaken, to evolve, and to become the person you are meant to be. And that, dear friend, is the true meaning of transformation. In the end, pain is not something we need to fear or avoid. It's simply a part of the journey, a journey that, if we choose to walk it with awareness, can lead us to wisdom, peace, and ultimately to freedom. The middle path, escaping extremes in a cruel world. Sit down, my friend. Breathe slowly. Close your eyes for a moment and feel the air enter and leave your body. This breath, so simple, so unnoticed, is the start of something deep. It is the first step on the middle path. Not the path of weakness, not the path of escape, but the path of balance, where real peace is found in a world that is often unfair. Life pulls us in many directions. When we suffer, we either fall into deep sadness or we try to fight everything. We become cold, angry, or empty. Some of us try to hold on tightly to pleasure. Others push it all away and live like nothing matters. Both ways are full of pain. The Buddha saw this clearly. Before he became the Buddha, he lived as a prince in great comfort. Then, he left everything behind and lived in extreme poverty, denying himself food, sleep, and comfort. He nearly died. But in that deep struggle, he realized something. Neither luxury nor pain brings true wisdom. Neither holding on nor letting go blindly leads to peace. He sat under the Bodhi tree and chose the middle path. This path is not soft. It does not mean we avoid pain or pretend life is easy. It means we stop chasing happiness and stop running from suffering. We stay still. We face things as they are. We begin to live with awareness, not emotion. Why do bad things happen to good people? This question itself pulls us to extremes. We think either the world is unfair or we are being punished. But the middle path teaches, stop judging, stop measuring. Life is not a fair game or a cruel joke. It just is. Imagine two travelers. One walks with anger, asking why the road is rough. The other walks with eyes open, seeing each stone, each hill, each flower. The second one gets tired too, but he understands the road. He walks with balance. That is the middle path. In a world full of extremes, extreme pain, extreme pleasure, extreme belief, extreme fear, the middle path feels invisible. It is quiet. It does not shout. It does not promise magic. But it saves you, slowly, gently, from drowning in your own thoughts. Sometimes when people suffer, they say, I will never care again. I will never love again. I will never trust again. They think this is strength. But this is just another extreme. Cutting off feeling is not healing. It is fear pretending to be power. The middle path says, yes, love again, but with open eyes. Yes, care again, but without losing yourself. Yes, trust, but also accept that things may change. This is not weakness. This is wisdom. The wisdom of someone who has cried, fallen, stood again, and now walks with care. Even kindness, when it is blind, can cause harm. Even truth, when shouted, can cause pain. The middle path is not about always being soft. It is about choosing wisely. Sometimes, silence is stronger than words. Sometimes, stepping back is wiser than fighting. This balance is power. In Buddhism, nothing is permanent. Everything changes. When good people suffer, it is not forever. When joy comes, it is not forever. So do not cling. Do not reject. Walk calmly. Smile gently. Cry when needed. Then, return to your breath. Return to the middle. In this cruel world, people want strong answers. They want to blame someone. They want to know why. But the middle path teaches you not to be a victim of your own questions. Not all answers bring peace, but understanding that brings freedom. If someone hurts you, you do not need to become like them. If the world is dark, you do not need to turn off your light. The middle path says, be the light, but don't burn yourself. Be kind, but don't lose your voice. Be patient, but don't stay silent forever. This balance is your protection. The Zen master once said, when the bird flies too high, it burns. When it stays too low, it is caught. But when it flies in the open wind, it is free. That is how we must live. Not too far from others. Not too close to lose ourselves. Just enough to love, to learn, to stay awake. Balance does not mean having no emotions. It means not being controlled by them. You can feel anger, but not act in hate. You can feel sadness, but not sink. You can feel joy, but not chase it. This is freedom. This is the middle path. Think of a river. If it flows too fast, it destroys. If it stops, it becomes poison. But when it flows naturally, slowly, it gives life. That is how your mind should be. Not rushing, not stuck, just flowing. The world will still hurt you, but you won't lose yourself in the hurt. Many people think peace means having no problems. But peace means staying calm, even when problems come. It means knowing you don't have to have all the answers to rest, that you don't need to fix everything to breathe. The middle path gives you that rest. Sometimes life won't make sense. Sometimes you'll see bad people win. You'll see good people cry. But do not become bitter. Do not give up your heart. Instead, sit quietly and say, I don't understand this, but I will keep walking. That is strength. That is wisdom. The middle path does not remove your pain, but it removes your confusion. It helps you see clearly, even through tears. It helps you take one more step, even when your heart is tired. It teaches you that healing is not a straight line, and that even if the world is cruel, you don't have to be. So breathe again. Come back to yourself. You don't need to live in extremes. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to stay present, stay kind, stay balanced. In this balance, you will find peace, not the kind that ignores pain, but the kind that survives it. This is the middle path, and it is waiting for you to walk it. The silent answer. Final reflections on suffering and grace. The journey through suffering is like walking through a dense fog. At first, everything seems clouded, unclear. You can't see ahead of you, and every step feels uncertain. The pain feels endless, the confusion deep. And yet, when we look back at our path, we realize something incredible. It was not the storm that defined us, but how we walked through it. What if suffering, in its purest form, wasn't something to be avoided? What if it was a teacher, a mentor, guiding you through lessons you didn't know you needed to learn? At first, the lesson might seem cruel, and the pain might seem unbearable. But time has a way of revealing the truth. Time is a mirror, reflecting the deepest parts of your soul, the places where you are meant to grow. Buddhism teaches us that suffering is not the enemy. It is the path. It's how we respond to pain that shapes who we become. It is not about asking, why me? Or searching for justice in a world that seems unjust. It's about understanding that suffering is universal, and in that shared experience, there is connection. Think about the most painful moment in your life. The moment you thought you couldn't go on. The betrayal, the loss, the hurt. And now, think about how you made it through. Maybe it took time. Maybe it took silence. Maybe it took something deeper than you ever knew you had. But you made it through. And now, looking back, you can see that there was something in that struggle that gave you strength, that gave you wisdom. You may not have seen in the moment, but now you understand. You grew. Buddhism teaches us about the impermanence of life. Nothing lasts forever, neither joy nor sorrow. The pain you feel today will not last forever. It will evolve, it will change, and it will pass. This is not a denial of your suffering. but an acknowledgement that you do not have to be consumed by it. You can sit with it. You can embrace it, even, and in doing so, you become the master of it, not the other way around. When you look at life through this lens, something incredible happens. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of fate, and instead, you see yourself as an active participant in the unfolding of your story. You are not powerless in the face of suffering. You are powerful because you have the ability to choose how to respond. And the more you choose wisely, the more you grow. There's a saying in Buddhism, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. This does not mean you should avoid feeling the pain. It means you can choose to not let it define you. You can choose to learn from it, to find meaning in it. You can choose to transform it into something that serves your higher purpose. The path of the Buddha was not one of avoiding pain. It was one of understanding it. The Buddha did not promise us a life without hardship. He promised us a way to live with the hardship, peacefully, with wisdom, and with grace. And this is where the true power lies, not in avoiding life's challenges, but in meeting them with open eyes and an open heart. So, let's return to that question. Why do bad things happen to good people? There's no simple answer. There's no formula for life's unfairness. But in Buddhism, there's an understanding that all suffering, all hardship, is part of the human condition. It's a part of life that no one can escape. And the only way out is through. The answer, then, is not found in the absence of pain, but in the presence of wisdom. Wisdom to see that suffering is not a punishment, but a teacher. Wisdom to understand that every moment of pain is an opportunity for growth, for transformation. And when you can look at suffering this way, you begin to understand that bad things don't happen to good people. Bad things happen to everyone. It's not about whether you deserve it. It's about what you do with it once it happens. How you use it to shape your soul, to shape your character, and to find your peace. In the end, it's not the pain that matters. It's how you respond to it, how you rise from it, the strength you find in the deepest parts of your being that you never knew existed. That is the true measure of a person's life. Not what happens to them, but what they do with what happens. Now, think of your own life. The pain you've endured, the struggles you've faced. Look at those moments not as burdens, but as opportunities. Opportunities to awaken to your true nature. Opportunities to live with greater compassion, greater understanding, and greater love. There are moments in life when you will be tested. You will face challenges that seem insurmountable. You will feel the weight of the world on your shoulders, and you will wonder how much longer you can carry it. But in those moments, remember that you're not alone. All people suffer, and in that shared suffering, there's a deep connection. The Buddha's teachings are not just about finding a way to avoid pain. They're about learning to walk through it with grace, about finding the light in the darkest of times, about remembering that you are not defined by your suffering, but by how you rise from it. So, as you continue your journey through life, remember this: suffering will come. It is inevitable. But how you respond to it, how you choose to grow through it, that is where your true power lies. And finally, remember this: you are not alone in your suffering. Every person who walks this earth has felt pain, has faced hardship, but we are all walking this path together, and together we can find the strength to carry on. As you move forward, carry the wisdom of the Buddha in your heart. Know that suffering is not a punishment. It is a teacher, and with each step you take, you grow closer to the person you are meant to become. Life is not about escaping pain. It's about learning to live with it, learning to transform it, and learning to find peace within it. This is the heart of Buddhism, and this is the heart of your journey.